My name is Rhonda Gilbreth. Welcome to Primetime in the library. Primetime celebrates the accomplishments and experiences of the Bethel community and is a collaborative project between the Friends of the Library organization, faculty development, and various other offices on campus. We record most of our programming, so you can go to the library website and hear past recordings if you like. And if you enjoy Primetime programming, we'd like to encourage you to think about becoming a friend to the library. There's information about that on the library website as well. Please join us next week on Tuesday, May 8th at 11:15 for the Friends of the Library's annual awards program. Barrett Turnquist is the 2018 winner of the Library Research Prize, and she is going to present her winning paper, which is on the female Junzi in Confucian ethics. And we're also going to be awarding the Library Student Worker Scholarship to Lindsey. Today is our 6th annual Poetry Primetime event. We look forward to this celebration every year, but after enduring what felt like an endless winter and an April that lived up to its reputation as the cruelest month, I think we're all especially ready for a little poetry therapy. So we've got a great lineup, and first up today is Barrett Fisher.
I'm a former English professor, so I can't read a poem without a brief word of explanation. The poem is called The Kingfisher. And I was talking to a colleague in the hall just yesterday, and he was introducing to me the idea that he had been reading Terry Tempest Williams, and she says there's some birds by which you measure your life. And he knows that I'm an aspiring birder, so he said, is there a bird by which you measure your life? And I said almost without hesitation, the kingfisher. And he wondered if that's because I have aspirations to royalty since my name is Fisher. It's not. There's a number of reasons why I feel drawn to the kingfisher, but I'll just mention one. In Greek, the kingfisher is halcyon. And if you've heard of halcyon days, that's what the kingfisher is. The halcyon days are named for the kingfisher because of a Greek myth involving the daughter of the king of the winds, Aeolus, whose husband had drowned in the sea, and she threw herself into the sea after him, and they were both rewarded by being turned into birds. And on the 7 days before and after, traditionally, when the kingfishers lay their eggs, the sea is supposedly calm. And that's why we call those halcyon days. Kingfisher shows up lots of other places as well, most notably Gerard Manley Hopkins' poem is Kingfishers Catch Fire. Kingfisher shows up in one of my favorite poets, T.S. Eliot. And the poem I'm about to read actually alludes to where the kingfisher shows up. But I picked this poem because it's very accessible, and it captures to me the thrill that I feel when I see a kingfisher. Call me a nerd, I guess, but that's I just love to see this bird. So this is a poem. The author's name is Lisa Williams. She teaches English at a college down in Kentucky. The Kingfisher. I wanted to see a kingfisher with its throat bound up in whiteness and its black crest aimed at clouds. I didn't know what it looked like, not really. In poems and stories, it would flicker, a subtle omen. But a kingfisher appeared one February Sunday. First, a high, rattling call, like a constant shake of maracas. Then the bird itself touched down on an aged tree, on a pond's island, in a circle of melting ice. From that one place, it called, and its call tapped a contradiction to the cold, a noise that loosened the ice's thin sheets. The kingfisher lifted its tail up and down, moved close to the water, moved closer. Its eyes skimmed the pond. I clumsily focused binoculars, the white throat, the angular crest, perceptible barely by color and form, a lot like a painting viewed so close up it's blurred. Step away, step away. I didn't for my life's one mention of kingfisher, until some noise, a rifle, a muffler, or a tree fall in the distance, triggered its flight. And then I watched it lift. It's heavy, a bird more burdened than some, and not all grace. Trailing calls like the beads of a rosary, a string of clicks in air, a shadow leaving the ice. Next up is Janna Collins.
Good morning. I have to bend. I am reading a poem that my great-grandmother wrote. I did not know her, but I really appreciated and enjoyed getting to know her through her writing. She wrote poems and uplifting articles for a publication called Beacon, and it was for members of the Chin Up Club, which I love that name. She was an invalid, and she wrote these poems and articles for other invalids. When first these walls encompassed me, I felt hedged in, alone, and grieved that I could work no more at loved tasks of my own. And then I hung rich tapestries of every lovely hue, shot through with golden promises God made to me and you. A gentle presence came to dwell within this quiet room, to lay his tender hand on mine and tranquil life illume. So I have found contentment here. True peace dwells in my heart, a faith no earthly power can shake, in him who maps my chart. Next up, Whitney Cottrell.
My name is Whitney Cottrell. I am a spoken word artist, and I've been performing for like the past 4 or 5 years. This is a spoken word called In Sync, and it was written based on the perspective and stories of other people that I know in my life. So enjoy. 1:41 a.m. Somewhere in Minneapolis, there's a woman sitting on her bed, hugging her knees, thought so twisted and manipulated. It's like Inception and the Matrix conceived a child, giving birth to a baby named Chaos. Because falling in love with something so deep and dark was a risk she was willing to take, but when she decided to get engaged with darkness, she wasn't thinking he would leave her, and she'd be left a widow with an infant. So, even after all the labor pains and sleepless nights, she decided to keep all her thoughts inside her little chaotic embryo. Aborting it would just leave her empty and alone, and choosing to kill something that was a part of her would just leave a hole. Sitting on her bed, hugging her knees, she screams, "I may cry, ruining my makeup, wash away all the things you've taken in. I don't care if I don't look pretty, big girls cry when their hearts are breaking." Because when she cries, her tears turn into rivers, and those rivers overflow into oceans, and those oceans cause floods that fill her bedroom, giving her no room to breathe, and she's panicking now because she's never learned how to swim. No one ever took the time to teach her how. 1:41 a.m. Somewhere in Minnesota, a man wanders down a road, strung up on who knows what in the middle of who knows where. Not having enough sense to roam on the sidewalk instead of the middle of the street, but having enough sense to pay for his weekly addiction that he constantly feeds. Because his addiction is a monster and his body is an alien, and if his body is an alien, that means he just doesn't belong, so it's monsters versus aliens, and so far, the monster is winning. The addiction fights the man, and he stumbles and sways, tripping over his own 2 feet. He falls to the side of the road and cries, "Ouch, I have lost myself again. Lost myself and I am nowhere to be found. Yeah, I think that I might break. Lost myself and I feel unsafe." He stays there, lying in the dirt, holding on to what little feeling he has left. 1:41 a.m. Somewhere in America is a teenage girl, and she may or may not have looked a little like me. She's sitting on her bed, hugging her pillow. Tears are streaming down her face, her vision clouded and blurry, her body shaking continuously. If anyone asked her what was going on, she wouldn't be able to explain it. Not that she wouldn't want them to understand, just most people wouldn't. How do you explain pain for a nation filled with people you don't know? Pain for a people who don't know you. Because to them, she is just another teenage girl, someone who will end up exactly like everyone else, broken. But Opening her mouth, she screams into her pillow, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Each time saying his name more desperately than the last, because every time she says that name, she knows Jesus is listening. And exactly at the same time, at 1:41 a.m., there's other people crying out to him as well. They're saying, Jesus, the people in this world are hurting. Jesus, the people in this world are lost. Jesus, the people in this world are broken. And Jesus, the people in this world need you. And once again, exactly at the same time, at 1:41 a.m., Jesus is sitting on his throne looking down saying, I hear you. I am healing the hurting. I am finding the lost. I am fixing the broken. And I am coming back for you.
Microphone choreography is part of the act. I have 3 short poems for you today. I enjoy visiting Civil War battlefields. I've visited many of them. The Fredericksburg battlefield is unique, at least in my experience, in that it is now a neighborhood. In 1865, this development began on this rising plain from the town of Fredericksburg up to Mary's Height, where on December 13, 1862, thousands of men were wounded or died. And it's, as I've said, it's now completely filled with houses. And I've wondered what the people who live there think about that, or if they do think about that. Fredericksburg battlefield, 2016. Do you see them, the soldiers rising up every year, marching in column, rows of 4 up Hanover Street, deploying in line of battle in your neighbors' backyards, passing around your houses, frightening your children who climb in the leafless trees, and the old man walking his dog. Rows and rows of gritty, jaw-set men in muddied wool, the captain, sword held high, urging on his vanishing company, while the roaring guns on Mary's Heights and the smoking muskets, barrels lying across the stone wall, sever the stooping blue lines, ball and shot and shell exploding in the hearts of young men. Do you flinch as the solid shot enters your west wall, taking out your television, glass everywhere, the sound of mini balls like hail, shredding your vinyl siding? Do you know that the satellite dish looks like a sieve, or that the Dodge you parked on the curb sits smoking on 4 flat tires, all glass shattered, the radiator dripping fluid? Do you see the bodies on your lawn, twisted, legless, headless, or the flood of blood flowing down the gutters into the storm drains? When I was in elementary school, we lived for 6 years in a duplex, and on the back utility room, I guess you would call it, right next to the back door was a wringer washer where my mother did the laundry. If you've not ever seen a wringer washer, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. Semi-automatic, I guess. This poem is called Wash Day. The clothesline hums with the strumming of the spring breeze, till muted by hung-out sheets, its song swapped for my mother's humming of I'll Fly Away, and the thwack of her shaking out a wadded shirt, or the twang of metal pants creasers, while semaphores of bleached underwear wigwag a counter lyric, and just inside the back door, the wringer washer purrs and creaks, where she's added cheer to the troubled water, to wash away stains and grime, so that we will be presented spotless at the front door. And my last poem I've come to see as a love poem. It's called We Honeymooned in a 68 Volkswagen. We honeymooned in a '68 Volkswagen, where we'd made out when we were dating. The back seat now filled with gifts toward a life together, imagining my parents honeymooning in a Ford sedan, driving east, Dad wanting to introduce his new wife to his mother. And we're driving down 395, the dry, late August wind beating in the open windows, crossing the Columbia at Umatilla, picking up 97, then south through Shaniko and Antelope and Madras and Bend and Klamath Falls, take 99 at Weed, then south toward Redding and Sacramento, with $500 in my pocket and no job, and wondering how this could be so different than the thrill of making out, and how pulling down some secluded trail right now is the furthest from my mind, and that this poor woman sitting next to me with only the shift lever between us has vowed to travel down this road with me, or any other road for that matter. Our next reader is Ann Lees.
So this was a poem that I heard on the radio, and I was telling Ann that I was listening to a program in my car, and the poem was happening when I had pulled up to my home, and so it was one of those where you sit in the driveway and listen to the rest of the poem. And I have to say I'm going to apologize ahead of time for my emotions. As a true Minnesotan, I'm going to apologize for my emotions. I have two daughters who are in the crux of being teenage girls. And so this is a poem by a young poet, very much similar to our young lady who just shared. Her name is Sarah Kay, and this is called B. If I should have a daughter. Instead of Mom, she's going to call me Point B, because that way she knows that no matter what happens, at least she can always find her way back to me. And I'm going to paint the solar systems on the backs of her hands, so she has to learn the entire universe before she can say, oh, I know that like the back of my hand. She's going to learn that this life will hit you hard in the face, wait for you to get up so it can kick you in the stomach. But getting the wind knocked out of you is the only way to remind your lungs how much they like the taste of air. There is hurt here that cannot be fixed by Band-Aids or poetry. So the first time she realizes that Wonder Woman isn't coming, I'll make sure she knows she doesn't have to wear the cape all by herself. Because no matter how wide you stretch your fingers, your hands will always be too small to catch all the pain you want to heal. Believe me, I have tried. And baby, I'll tell her, don't keep your nose up in the air like that. I know that trick. You're just smelling for smoke so you can follow the trail back to a burning house so you can find the boy who lost everything in the fire to see if you can save him. Or else find the boy who lit the fire in the first place to see if you can change him. But I know that she will anyway, so instead I'll always keep an extra supply of chocolate and rain boots nearby, because there's no heartbreak that chocolate can't fix. Okay, there's a few heartbreaks that chocolate can't fix. But that's what the rain boots are for, because rain will wash away everything if you let it. I want her to see the world through the underside of a glass-bottom boat, to look through a magnifying glass at the galaxies that exist on the pinpoint of a human mind. Because that's how my mom taught me, that there'll be days like this. There'll be days like this, my mama said, when you open your hands to catch and wind up with blisters and bruises. When you step out of the phone booth and try to fly, and the very people you want to save are the ones standing on your cape. When your boots fill with rain and you'll be up to your knees in disappointment, and those are the very days you have all the more reason to say thank you. Because there is nothing more beautiful than the way the ocean refuses to stop kissing the shoreline, no matter how many times it's sent away. You will put the wind in win some, lose some. You'll put the star in starting over. And no matter how many minds erupt in a minute, be sure your mind lands on the beauty of this funny place called life. And yes, on a scale from 1 to over-trusting, I'm pretty naive, but I want her to know that this world is made out of sugar. It can crumble so easily, but do not be afraid to stick your tongue out and taste it. Baby, I'll tell her. Remember, your mama's a worrier, but your papa is a warrior. And you are the girl with small hands and big eyes who never stops asking for more. Remember, the good things come in threes, and so do the bad things. And always apologize when you've done something wrong, but don't ever apologize for the way your eyes refuse to stop shining. Your voice is small, but don't ever stop singing. And when they finally hand you heartbreak, slip hatred and more under your doorstep, and hand you handouts on street corners of cynicism and defeat, you tell them that they really ought to meet your mother. Do you know you're okay?
I knew it was me because I came after the Sarah K. poem. Thank you, I love that one. So I'm not much of a poet myself, but I have had the wonderful opportunity to work with a lot of amazing poets this last semester. And I just wanted to share with you some poetry from one of my favorites. This is Ada Limon, and her book, Bright Dead Things, which won the 2016, or not won, I'm sorry, was a finalist for the 2016 National Book Award. And I'm just really moved by her poetry, and if you like this, she has a new book coming out in the fall, so it's called Carrying. Small plug. Okay, this is The Whale and the Waltz Inside of It. I'm just going to move that a little bit. Can you hear me? Okay. I don't even know how to get to Alaska, or how to talk about race when the original tongue is gone. Imagine a woman at the edge, at the border of a universe, waving without an idea of where to wave, into emptiness, into a bliss. I moved to New York City once with cash money I'd saved from being a receptionist for the county and a box of books I'd never read. No one tells you how old you'll be one day, or rather no one can tell you. Generations are forgotten with their real letters. Right now, he's trying to explain to me why whales don't get dizzy, something about the caves of the inner ear, but all I see is this spinning, icy black water, enormous rush, mammalian greatness beneath me, and how maybe I could swim to Alaska. I heard about a woman once, maybe she was my mother, who wanted to move to Alaska, but the bears were trouble. They gave her a goat to take to the outhouse. Not for protection, but for offering. It had a little gold bell, the goat, that rang out in the air like a cannon. I still worry, even now, about that goat. Did it know what its job was, ringing on like that? I prefer not to make a sound. Will the idea of race go away if we all stop talking? No, we require the goat. We send people before us, scouts of air, of water, of fire, of earth, to tell us how to live. I want to be the largest animal that ever existed, the one blue mother. I'd save the goat and the bear. Did you know giant whales have a spindle cell making them capable of attachment and of great suffering? I want to ride around gently and wave at the colorful human parade, especially at you. But in the end, I want the watery under. Evolution, of course. Don't think of the trash the size of Texas. Did you know that whales returned to the water? It went like this: water, land, water, like a waltz. I once had a record of whale sounds I swear I understood. It didn't matter what worlds they were under, what language, what depth of water divided, and the song went on and on. What I mean is, none of this is chaos. Immigration, cross the river, the blood of us. It goes like this: water, land, water, like a waltz. I am in no hurry to stop believing we are supposed to sway like this, that we too are immense and calling out. Up next is Mark Thorson, sorry.
My My name is Mark Thorson. I work over at CAPS across the road, and I don't get here too often. But when the invitation to read a poem came out, I thought I'd like to share a poem from Gorillas of Grace. This is written by the Reverend Ted Loader, and the title kind of reflects the two sides of his vocation. He's a Methodist minister, but for many years he was involved in that very old school evangelical tradition of working for social justice. And the one that I wanted to share with you is a poem written back in the 80s, but which is very appropriate today in our troubled times. It's called, and it has a lot of echoes of the way that the Psalms and the prophets work through problems. And it's called, Sometimes It Just Seems Too Much. Sometimes, Lord, it just seems to be too much. Too much violence, too much fear, too much of demands and problems, too much of broken dreams, broken lives, too much of war and slums and dying, too much of greed and squishy fatness and the sounds of people devouring each other and the earth. Too much of stale routines and quarrels, unpaid bills and dead ends, too much of words lobbed in to explode and leaving shredded hearts and lacerated souls. Too much of turned away backs and yellow silence, red rage, and the bitter taste of ashes in my mouth. Sometimes the very air seems scorched by threats and rejection and decay until there is nothing but to inhale pain and exhale confusion. Too much of darkness, Lord. Too much of cruelty and selfishness and indifference. Too much, Lord. Too much. Too bloody, bruising, brainwashing, much. Or is it too little? Too little of compassion, too little of courage, of daring, of persistence, of sacrifice. Too little of music and laughter and celebration. Oh God, make of me some nourishment for these starved times, some food for my brothers and sisters who are hungry for gladness and hope. That, being bread for them, I may also be fed and be full.
The next 6 readers are finalists in the Jerry Healy Poetry Prize that was just established last year to honor the memory of a former beloved English professor here named Gerald Healy, who deeply loved poetry. And the theme for this year's contest is a loss. These poems will be published in a special section of the Coeval, which is Bethel's literary magazine. And you'll have an opportunity to hear them again at the English Department's Senior Symposium, which will be held in the Olson Boardroom on May 17th at 4 p.m. And so the first of these readers is Tatiana Lee.
Hello.
I'm Tatiana, and this poem is from a portfolio called The Unknown. So I'm adopted from Russia, and I wrote this portfolio in mind of all the things I don't really know about my past. I am Tatiana, of those unknown to me from my past, bred by a father dead to me at age 2, born by a mother who became a faint memory at the age of 30. I was born of the cold land, where grass grows tall and fear heavy. Thrifted by thieves, I gained unworthy knowledge. I was raised in a dark hole. Refined and cultivated to believe that everything and everyone around me was there to kill. I was brought up to fear everyone but myself. I was born in a part of Russia that still lingers in my mind. I am as dark as the sky when the full moon rises. I burn a fire inside my soul, one that stings such as the sun. I am resilient. I walk a road of unfamiliarity, and I breathe a longing desire to know the unknown. I am Tatiana. Up next is Melanie and McGinniss.
I'm Melanie, and I'm going to be reading Lost and Found. A bent blue bicycle on the side of the road. A black mitten, stained brown, at the bottom of a cardboard box. A dog wandering outside the supermarket. A brand new pen dropped behind a beat-up wooden desk. A text that reads, "I'm sorry," unread. A smashed picture frame laying upside down at the bottom of the stairs. A patch of dry, brown flowers. A note signed "Love," crumpled up and thrown in a wastebasket. A muffled sob in the back of a coffee shop. A faded leather wallet left on the counter of a dive bar downtown. A diamond ring at the bottom of an overflowing jewelry box. A whistle of wind through a broken window and the echo of an empty home. Up next is Kari Montpet.
In high school, one of my dear friends committed suicide, so this is about her. I'm sorry if I cry. I'm really close to home. So, unkind hands. Remember this tragedy, that's what they said. A tragedy that someone would die so young and not live to her full potential. How tragic that she will not grow old with a husband, children, and a job. Remember the good things, that's what they said. Remember the good things about her, don't let them slip away. Remember how much we love and cherish her and how much joy she brought us. Remember forgiveness, that's what they said. Remember how forgiveness and apologies can take away the pain and words that have destroyed us. Forgiveness and respect for those who do not see eye to eye. Remember how beautiful she is, that's what they said. She is beautiful and perfectly laid in her last bed with clothes deliberately displaying how perfect teenagers are with youth on their side. Remember what happened. That's what they didn't say. They didn't want to remember how she took her life into her own hands and tried to solve the problem of unkind words she was dealing with every single day. Remember how sad. That's what I said. Remember how sad it felt when I heard the news of my dear friend no longer walking this earth, how she slipped from the grasp of evil thoughts and did so in the most tragic way. Remember to pray. That's what I said. Remember to pray that the thoughts she had are not replicated in others to come. Up next is Hannah T.
Hi, I'm Hannah Toutge. This is called A List of Strangers We've Lost. Jamar Clark, ring a bell? Were he alive, he'd have a story to tell. One of prejudice, one of fear, just one night when the stars were clear was all it took to end his life. The last thing he saw, an accusing flashlight, just one night when the stars were clear. Dontre Hamilton and Eric Garner, 2 more deaths, tensions running higher. Hamilton shot, Garner choked, neither man had a chance, nor spoke. Instructed to remain silent if ever detained, submitting would make it easier, they'd claimed. 2 more deaths, no one spoke. John Crawford III and Michael Brown, Cleveland or Ferguson, it doesn't matter the town. He fit the profile law enforcement defends, but what good does that do when they're already dead? Officers accused of being corrupt. It's obvious murder, but no one's locked up. What good does that do when they're dead? Tamir Rice and Jermaine Reed, 2 more names to ring in 2015. The list is growing and so is the anger at the senseless slaughter, the increasing danger, but only for black people because their skin makes them bad. The violence is becoming reminiscent of Stalingrad. Now we're in 2015. Tony Robinson and Philip White. Again, nobody put up a fight, because the more you resist, the worse it'll hurt. The tighter the handcuffs, even though your hands aren't any worse than the ones that held the gun that confidently pulled the trigger. The gunshot summons the gravedigger. You are not at fault. Walter Scott and Freddie Gray. Do you think we'll ever see the day when Black Lives Matter and cops aren't Mad Hatters and they don't shoot on a whim simply because of darker skin? Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Peter Gaines and Devontae Yates. Gee, ain't this country great? DeMarco Rhymes was 35. Why do white men prefer dead to alive? But only in terms of black men, you see. A free country, but not all in this country are free. Why are they dead? Why aren't they alive? Alton Sterling. Before he's buried, there's already another name to add to the fury. Philando Castile killed in front of his daughter. Live streamed on Facebook, another senseless slaughter. Tyre King was just 13. Another name glares up from the screen, another senseless slaughter. And now the question stands at attention, demands attention. How do we enact prevention? How do we respond to murder, hate crimes? When a white man is afraid, a black man dies. I wish these weren't even questions to pose. Acceptance is wilted like an April Christmas rose. How do we change? Here are their names. How do we change? Next up is Sophie Green.
Hi, I'm Sophie. I wrote this poem because I've had chronic pain for 5 years. Pain. Pain is the color blaze orange that burns like a 5-alarm fire. It sounds like a deep timpani pounding ferociously and tastes like rooster red chili sauce. Pain smells like incinerators burning waste. It looks like a Civil War battlefield. Pain feels irritated and inflamed. Pain is blue as sadness, like Picasso's blue period. Sounds like a mourning mother crying after the death of her only child, and tastes like foul, bitter herbs at Passover dinner. Smells like a gravedigger's dirty clothes after a long day's work. Pain looks like Edvard Munch's The Scream. It feels like defeat after a tough loss against your biggest rivalry. Pain is black spray paint used to vandalize your body, sounding like a roaring train in a dark tunnel. Tastes like an abscessed tooth. Smells like grandma's musty old cellar. Pain looks like grieving families and friends in Parkland, Florida, and feels like the devil is inside. Next up is Lindsey M.
Hello. I'll start off by saying that I wrote this on the literal east coast of Ireland. I studied abroad in the fall in Europe, and we went to over 10 countries. And when we were in Vienna, we started there, and I met a guy, typical story. And it was one of those things when you promise your mom when you go abroad that you won't hop on the back of a moped, and then the next day you do. So anyway, we spent 12 days together, and then the sporadic texting after I left Vienna to go elsewhere. And then I wrote this poem. On the east coast of Ireland. To get to the bench that I'm at as of now, I walked through the hailing wind of a couple eating Max fries and their licking of soft serve vanilla cones. I did that once. Inhaling the salt made me taste it with no choice but to miss him. There's a vast sea in front of me, some 30 yards if I knew such a distance. Hues of blue and gray all around. My nails, remnants of Windsor. Stan Smith, rocks more like cliffs. Waves and swells, clouds and shores. Seagulls and stone beaches. And the green, green grass, gray stones. Thank you.
At the end of a semester-long study on sleep, surrender, and Sabbath, we were asked to write a poem about what Sabbath means to us. So I put this poem to words shortly, to music shortly thereafter. In the time between moments, and air exists, expressions of freedom from politics, clarity and healing, and music is right. Below billowing breath, and call my sunrise. A question in moments to earn patience, a dance in the vista, revealing presence for blood and for water, cool nights breeze, Thanksgiving for a day of solace with thee. Next up is Donna LeGrand.
I'd like to introduce my colleague, Angela Carlson Lombardi. I'm going to be reading a poem in Spanish. Can you hear me? Okay. And I thought you would enjoy it more if you heard the English first, and then I read the poem in Spanish. So verse by verse, we'll translate. So we'll start with the English. But this is probably my favorite poem in Spanish. It's called Noche Oscura, or Dark Night. And it was a poem written by St. John of the Cross in the 16th century. And he was very persecuted for this poem. He was in prison for a couple of years because it was a time in which the Catholic Church, the institutional church, was watching to make sure that it did not lose its place as mediator of people's faith. Plus, there's some imagery in it that is common to Jewish poetry as well as to Islamic poetry. So that was also one of the reasons that he was persecuted. I think that this poem resonates with me because as a young girl, I accepted the Lord, but I was the only Christian in my family. And so my faith for many years was alone, and a lot of times it was at night, and I have many memories of laying in the dark in bed and reaching out to the Lord. So Angela is going to read the English, and then I'll read the Spanish.
Donna's poetry translator. In a dark night, with longings fired in love, oh happy fate, I went unnoticed while my house was calm.
En una noche oscura, con ansias en amores inflamada, oh dichosa aventura, salí sin ser notada, estando ya mi casa sosegada.
In darkness certain, by disguised and secret ladder, O happy fate. In darkness concealed, while my house was calm.
A escuras y segura, por la secreta escala disfrazada, oh dichosa aventura. A escuras y encelada, estando ya mi casa sosegada.
In happy night, in secret, that nobody saw me, nor I anything, no light and guide, but that which in my heart was burning.
En la noche dichosa, en secreto, que nadie me veía, ni yo miraba casa sin otra luz y guía, sino la que en el corazón ardía.
It guided me more surely than the midday light, to where he waited, who well I knew, there where no one appeared.
Aquesta me guiaba, más cierto que la luz del mediodía, a donde me esperaba quien yo bien me sabía, en parte donde nadie parecía.
O guiding night, O night more kind than break of day, O night, you who joined loved one with loved one, lover in the lover transformed.
Oh noche que guiaste, oh noche más amable que la alborada, oh noche que juntaste amada con amado, amada en amado transformada.
On my flowering breast, all kept for him alone, left sleeping there, and I gave myself, and the cedars gave the air their smell.
En mi pecho florido, que entero para él solo se guardaba, allí quedó dormido, y yo le regalaba, y el ventalle de cedros aire daba.
The scent of his brow, when I spread his hair, with his calm hand, hurting my neck, and all my senses suspended.
El aire de la almena, cuando yo sus caballos esparcía, con su mano serena en mi cuello hería, y todos mis sentidos suspendía.
I lost myself. I lay my face against the lover. Everything stopped, and I left myself, leaving my cares between the lilies all forgotten.
Quedéme y olvidéme, el rostro recliné sobre el amado, cesó todo, y dejéme, dejando mi cuidado entre las azucenas olvidadas. Next up is Kari Ruport.
I think many of us have a Bible verse that we call our life verse. I actually have that as well as a poem that is a life poem. It's called A Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Tell me not, in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act, that each tomorrow finds us further than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our souls, though stout and brave, still, like muffled drums, are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb-driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and God o'erhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing, shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. Next up is Natalie Gass.
All right, hello everybody. I'm Natalie, and I'm also a spoken word artist. I've only been doing this for about a year, but I wrote this piece to speak to the truth about abuse and how that can sometimes be covered up with people thinking it's love. And so yeah, I think there's a power in story, and for me, writing has been a healing process. So it's called 10, 15, 21. 10. Sitting on stairs, watching my family yell, scream. Someone grabbed the phone as I grabbed my neck to check if I was still breathing. Cried myself to sleep that night. Stains from my tears followed me to dry themselves into my nightmare reality. 15. Staring down at a text marked "I love you" from a boy who had undressed me when he touched me, pulled out layers of abuse wrapped around my past issues with men. Couldn't find words to say I loved him too. 21. Stepping on a plane to chase after a boy whose heart was already taken, floated on a hope this person could inject my heart with what love really felt like. Needle inserted itself into the wrong vein. Left alone, found there was no cure from those who had given me wounds. Today. Now I know that when you feel caught in horror, remember power and control is used to manipulate. When you can't find the words to say I love you, it's because they've been taken from you. And when you're trying to find a cure, remember there is none found through dirty needles and hopeless lies. Thank you, y'all.
James Hurd. There's a wonderful poem called Sonnet for a Quaker Wedding, which I am not going to read today. I realized I'd read that last year and you all remember it. So. On a lighter note, haiku poetry as error message. In Japan, they have replaced the impersonal and unhelpful Microsoft error messages with haiku poetry. Haiku poetry has strict construction rules. Each poem has only 3 lines, 17 syllables. 5 syllables in the first, 7 in the second, 5 in the third. Haikus are used to communicate a timeless message, often achieving a wistful, yearning, and powerful insight through extreme brevity. What better answer for the impersonal computer? Here is a sample. The website you seek cannot be located, but countless more exist. Chaos reigns within. Reflect, repent, and reboot. Order shall return. Windows NT crashed. I am the blue screen of death. No one hears your scream. Yesterday it worked. Today it is not working. Windows is like that. Stay the patient course. Of little worth is your ire. The network is down. 3 things are certain: death, taxes, and lost data. Guess which has occurred. You step in the stream, but the water has moved on. This page is not here. With searching comes loss and the presence of absence. My novel, not found. The Tao that is seen is not the true Tao until you bring fresh toner. Having been erased, the document you're seeking must now be retyped. And last, rather than a beep or a rude error message, these words: file not found. Our next poet is Kaylin Creason.
Hi, I'm Kaylin. I work in the library. I am the book buyer for the library. So As you can imagine, I'm often tempted to look through the books that come in, which I encourage all of you to do. We have a lovely poetry display right now if you've been encouraged by today's event, just a brief plug. So I'm going to be reading a poem I came across from a book we recently purchased, a book of poetry called To Whitey and the Cracker Jack by May Yang. She's a Hmong American poet. And I think this poem, it speaks really well about writing and the struggle of writing and the importance of writing giving voice, which I think is something that all of our young poets who were nominated for the award did a great job today, giving voice. And so I'm going to read this. It's called For the First Time. I know nothing of writing, it knows nothing of me, an unsettling stranger. Yet I long for it as it longs for me, an unnerving meeting. It stares at me empty, I stare back cautious, an unwavering touch. She grasps at the pencil with ungainly hands, veins like rope, skin like plaster. I ask her, no. I tell her, show me your house in the refugee camp, the one you miss and think of. Draw me its shapes and the candy counter, the one you laughed and ate at. Write me how you knew of love there with Grandpa, the one you were without children with. She takes the instrument, presses down 4 sides of a wall lined across whiteness. There, she utters. For the first time, she makes her mark.
Thanks for coming. That's the end of our program, but I wanted to tell you before you leave about another poetry event that you may be interested in. The Library Student Council is hosting its 2nd annual bonfire with poetry on Sem Hill on Monday at 7 o'clock. People are reading poetry, sharing poetry, their own, someone else's, or just listening, and there will be s'mores. So consider. Thanks for coming.